Dark fantasy, the subgenre of fantasy, is one that has poked its head in numerous platforms over the years. Whether it be games, literature, music, or cinema, it goes back as early as the 1920s, with a woman named Gertrude Barrows Bennett being coined as the woman who started it all. Dark fantasy has collected numerous tropes over the years that have now gone on to become staples of what it is today. Examples being darkness and colour palette, tone, as well as themes and terrifying new worlds with their own customs, laws, and history. A scene that reflects the genre really well is from the second Lord of the Rings film. The scene follows Merry and Pippin as they flee from orcs into Fangorn Forest. The scene takes place at night with nothing but the moon to light the hobbit's way. Branches and vines fill the forefront of the screen, giving us, the viewer, a feeling of the forest not only being overgrown, but capable of consuming both the characters and us, the audience. The hobbits' costumes consist of blues, greys and greens, matching the overall colour palette of the forest. We get an extreme wide shot of the forest, reinforcing to us, a viewer, this feeling of unease, while also giving us an idea for the scale of the forest. We get a wide pull-in shot of the characters' expressions, as well as a series of mid-shots of the orc pursuing them. You might notice when the hobbits are running, they are always filmed side on. This is actually because the actors were filmed in front of a blue screen and then edited into a miniature version of the forest. They built a small portion of the forest full size and it had around 12 trees, while the miniature one had around 140. Under Peter Jackson's direction, the scene was to be treated as if it was a live-action shoot. This helped in creating an atmosphere that felt like that of dark fantasy. And when it came to the lighting for the scene, Andrew Lesnie, director of cinematography, said that when filming Fangorn Forest, they had a big soft light from above, with about 260 space lights in it. This created the effect of a foggy moonlit night and truly brought the eeriness of the forest to life. And lastly, when it came to the dialogue of the scene, the characters' terror and unsettled demeanour, as well as false-placed optimism, really helped to reinforce this trope of stepping into the dark, spooky forest that reoccurs within the dark fantasy genre. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is another example of how to bring dark fantasy to the big screen. Unlike Lord of the Rings, the colour palette, lighting and costumes aren't that of your typical dark fantasy tropes. Rather, it's a set design, dressings, props and performance that sell the dark fantasy genre. The scene follows Harry and Ron as they venture deep into the dark forest. They find themselves face to face with a talking spider the size of a house. The scene cuts back and forth between the perspectives of both Harry and the spider, with close-ups of the spider's face when it's speaking. The character's lighting is warm, which works to not only contrast them further from their surroundings, but also plays into this idea that they're out of place. This, alongside the outfits that don't align with dark fantasy tropes, the scene is able to feel as if they're fish out of water, with the design of the set even being built surrounding the characters, almost trapping them in. Funny that. The design of the set is almost otherworldly in the scale of the tree's roots as well as the spider's webs. The spider itself, like Treebeard in the scene from Lord of the Rings, was brought to life through a combination of animatronics with prosthetics, as well as the trees which were made using resin over local trees to cast out their own. And lastly, the performance of the protagonist in the scene said everything. Through not being confused or scared, at least at first, we were able to get a sense of the normality for the world in which these creatures can exist, a dark fantasy world. When it comes to my interpretation of the script Ivan the Great, with elements taken from these scenes, I would probably take the lighting, costumes, colour palette and camera work from Lord of the Rings, while bringing other elements such as the set dressings, props and performance from Harry Potter, as I feel Harry Potter's forest felt more surreal, while the colour palette and camera work of Lord of the Rings worked to further enhance the dark fantasy within its scene. And lastly, I would take the performance from Harry Potter as it illustrated bravery, confidence and awareness of the world it's in. And that's something I would imagine from an Ivan the Great.